So, but if all knowledge comes from sense data, you have no way to know that one piece of sense data is primary or self-evident over any other piece of sense data. It's just an illegitimate assumption. You have no way to know that the collections of sense data in this instance are better or preferable to the collections of sense data over here in this instance without assuming some other principle that is not from sense data. Do you see how it just it keeps doing all these things that are invalid moves on its own grounds? That's the problem. And they're just so hard-headed. Like they refuse to even consider this because they don't even realize that they're in a system. Like they're worshiping this system, this man-made ideal system. And they can't even answer the basic questions when people ask them. They said, like, how do you know the peripatetic axiom is true? It just is. It's commonly accepted. It must be. Okay, Matt. That's the Matt Dillahunty reply from the Thomists. Don't you understand that I'm just repeating what happened in history? Historical figures have already asked the presuppositional questions from these people. And if they were consistent, they would be David Hume.
Purely actual cause we're looking for. What about the universe's finite past? Something is necessary only if it is impossible for it to not exist. But if the universe came into existence, then it can't be necessary.
So again, how or why do these people think that these concepts like necessity, non-necessity, contingency, change, again, which I admit are all existent in the world, of course. But how do they think that all that stuff is self-evident? Like, how do they think? How is that more self-evident than any other fact of sense data? Do you see that their argument rests on that, right? That there's a myth of the given, or that there's some automatic self-evident priority to some of the sense datas over the other sense datas. What is the criteria from sense data that tells you that some of the sense datas are more epistemically prior or metaphysically prior or greater than the other sense datas? You see? There is no principle in sense data. Do you understand that the whole system has already limited itself to say nothing exists in the intellect that's not first in sense data? Well, how does God get into the intellect? Oh, sense data. Really? What sense data? Causation, teleology. But now, wait a minute. Those are created things. So now we're to the problem of divine simplicity, created grace, which the Roman Catholic dialectic can't transcend. It can never answer or solve those problems.
It would instead stand in need of an explanation for why it exists. One reason to believe the universe has not always existed is because the past contains causal chains that explain objects and events in the present.
The fact that there's causal chains in the past does not lead to the conclusion that there must be a first instance of the causal change at some point in the past also. Again, maybe Trent should read Fazer's book, because Fazer has given up making the causal argument in the causal chain sense. He only thinks you can do this kind of layered, structured cause within cause within cause in an eternal, or basically eternal, universe, right? Again, Trent, maybe you should go read Fazer, because he doesn't even think this argument works anymore as you're presenting it.
Present. However, no past causal series that terminates in the present can be infinitely long, because that would lead to a contradiction. Consider Robert Kuhn's paper passer thought experiment. Imagine beings called paper passers who exist at every January 1st in the past. So there's one at January 1st, 2020, one at January 1st, 2019, and so on into an infinite past. Their job is to receive a piece of paper from the passer who held it during the year.
Again, if I was debating Trent, even as a presuppositionalist, right, not as an atheist, but either one, as an atheist or a presuppositionalist, I would say, Trent, where in sense data is all the stuff you're appealing to? Okay, well, let's just cut to the chase of your whole system, and let's destroy your whole system by just simply asking you, where in sense data is causation, is the necessity or knowledge of an external world outside of your mind, is the certitude that the sense data matches up to the objects, the content of the sense data is, well, how do you know that it matches up? Maybe we live in a simulation, right? Maybe the external world deceives us and gives us false sense data. So, I mean, I can go on and on and just simply pick out from the peripatetic axiom's presupposition, from its starting point, that all of these, you're just talking and none of this has been given a justification. You're just saying all of this stuff. You're making all these arguments, which make perfect sense if God exists. But Trent, I thought that's what's in question here. The question is justifying belief in God. You can't presuppose a Christian paradigm and the Christian paradigm's understanding of causation and teleology to make an argument for God. Unless you want to make a transcendental argument, but that's not what Trent is doing, and they don't believe in doing that.
Year before them, and to see if it's blank. If the paper is blank, then they write a...
Trent doesn't have to explicitly state the peripatetic axiom because the whole Roman Catholic system adopted it, and it's built on it. Go read the peripatetic axiom at Wikipedia. It'll tell you the specific citation in Thomas Aquinas where he affirms it. Go read Fides et Ratio. It's the principle. It's there. It's not even in question that this is what Roman Catholic theology teaches in terms of its epistemology. Read Vatican I. It says just go look at history. Use your senses. Use your sense data, and you'll see that the Roman See was always primary. It's using this principle, right? Posterior analytics, Fides et Ratio. Any text on what natural theology is will tell you that Roman Catholicism affirms the peripatetic axiom. Stop with the low IQ questions.
Unique number assigned to them on it. If the paper they receive already has a number on it, however, then they just pass the paper along to the next paper passer at the end of the year. Now here's the question.
Don't tell me to chill. If I'm getting agitated, it's because we talked about this for years, and the lazy people in the chat who won't spend a minute to Google what the peripatetic axiom is and find the citation in Aquinas, then why are you wasting your time here? You're wasting your time listening. Go listen to something else.
What number is written on the paper given to the paper passer at January 1st, 2020, whose year will go downhill very quickly? There has to be some number written on it, because if it were blank, then the 2020 paper passer would write his number on it. But it can't be blank, because if it were, the 2019 paper passer would have written his number on it. But the 2019 paper passer could not have written his number on it, because if the paper were blank when he got it, the 2018 paper passer would have written his number on it. If there are an infinite number of paper passers, then we have a paradox. There is a piece of paper that arrives in the present that isn't devoid of numbers, but also can't have any particular number written on it. And this isn't unique to this scenario. Other thought experiments like Thomson's lamp or the Grim Reaper paradox show that objects cannot have infinite causal histories. This means causal series must be finite in nature, and the first member of the series would have to be uncaused.
No, it wouldn't. And in fact, Aristotle doesn't have a problem saying that the first cause is in a metaphysical sense prior to what he's moving, but that what he's moving is also eternal. And again, remember, Roman Catholic theology posits that because of divine simplicity, all the attributes and names of God are synonymous with his essence. So that means that that's the Fourth Council of Lyons. Go look up the affirmation of Peter Lombard's view of divine simplicity at the Council of Lyons. So don't come at me trying to tell me that that's not the Roman Catholic view. I know what the Council of Lyons, you go look it up. Read what Peter Lombard said about simplicity. He said every one of the predicates of God is synonymous amongst themselves and with the essence. So that means that if God is eternal and God is creator, then he's also eternal creator. This is the modal collapse argument. And it doesn't matter how many times you tell me about John Duns Scotus or any of these medieval, I know all that. All I have to do to refute the Roman Catholic system is to point out one dogmatic contradiction. And I just gave it to you. Right? Fourth Council of Lyons affirms Peter Lombard's dogma of divine simplicity. Go read Dr. Bradshaw's paper, Kat Epinoia, the long essay, Kat Epinoia, the 30-page essay on Kat Epinoia. He has a whole section citing Peter Lombard and the Fourth Lateran Synod's dogmatic affirmation. That's dogmatic for Roman Catholics. Go get your Denzinger out. It's dogmatic.
And since causal chains must be finite, this means the number of events before today must be finite, and so time is finite. If the past is finite, then our universe began to exist and would require an uncaused cause for its existence. Notice that we are at an important juncture. We've seen the universe has an explanation for its existence, and that explanation is not the universe.
All I have to say is, oh, okay, thank you, Trent. I believe all of your arguments. I'm a Muslim now. Good job. Oh, thank you, Trent. I believe all of your causal arguments. I accept Jehovah's Witness theology. Thank you. Good job. Yes, you proved the Jehovah's Witness God to me. You proved the Judaic God to me. You proved the Muslim God to me. Why are we using dumb arguments that any sect, any world religion, or any monotheistic religion, which is a false religion, could use? They're worthless.